Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bensalem Township meeting. This is our council meeting. Today's date is March 27th. I thought I turned that off. How popular can you be, you know? Jeez. At any rate, we would like to begin this meeting. Before we begin this meeting, I wanted to acknowledge the 3 adults and 3 children that were just murdered or killed in their school. Such a tragic, heartfelt situation that we all have to deal with. Luckily, nothing's happened like that in our area. Thank God for that. And as you stand for a silent moment of prayer, I'd like you to keep their families in your prayers and think about them as to what future they're going to have to deal with contending with this for the rest of their life. So God bless them and their family, and hopefully we can resolve this problem somehow in a mental type of a way that we can deal with this continuing problem in the United States. So please rise for a moment, silent meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin the meeting, I'm going to acknowledge we have I think a potential Eagle Scout. Is that correct, Patrick? Yes. And you're here just to observe what we do here? Okay, well, we're going to have a little questionnaire after the meeting, 10 questions, and we'll see how you do with that. What do you think? All right, we'll start with our names. I'd like to introduce you to our council members and those are us at the dais this evening. And we have our township engineer. I just turned it off, for gosh sakes. Here, turn it off. Our township engineer, Phil Worcester. Next to him, we have Debbie McBreen, which is our township, or our council clerk, I should say. And to the extreme right, we have our solicitor, Joe Pizzo. We have the Honorable Joseph DiGirolamo with us this evening. And we have our council members. We have next to me, well, I want to go to the extreme right, we have Joseph Knowles, our township secretary. Next to him, we have Stacy Champion. We have Michelle Benitez to my left, and we have Joe Polari, our council vice president. I'm Ed Kisselback, and I am the chairman and president this year. I'd like to begin with, we have a distinguished honoree. We have the Officer of the Year, Stephen Ames. I'd like Bill McVeigh to come up, and the deputy director also, if you would come up also. Mayor, would you like to go up there, please, if you would be kind enough? Oh, I'll come up too then, okay. Well, if I'm going up, I want the whole council to come up. Let's go. Let's have the whole council come up on it because this is quite an accomplishment. Officer of the Year, is that correct? Sure. Wonderful. Okay, let's go up and just honor him.
So as we're can I speak now?
Yes, you can speak.
So So as we're getting started here, tonight we're gathered for the 2022 Officer of the Year for Bensalem Township Police Department. As you know, we have the finest police department in the state of Pennsylvania, and some may argue in the country. I certainly believe that, as do the people standing here with me. It's a tough selection process for Officer of the Year. We had 4 officers, 1 of each quarter. That was not Steve Ames. Steve Ames is going to be recognized. You'll hear the citation for what he does day in, day out, the jobs that he makes, the arrest, but the type of attitude he brings to this department and this community every day. So it's a great honor that I'll read this citation. In 2022, you were one of the most productive police officers in the department. You led the department with 239 criminal arrests, handled 731 police incidents, conducted 168 traffic stops, and searched numerous vehicles for contraband. Your proactive approach to policing has led to numerous felony arrests and the recovery of illegal narcotics and firearms. 2 specific investigations that exemplify your outstanding police work in 2022 are as follows. Number 1, an investigation with several fellow officers at the Lincoln Motel were a 9mm ghost gun, 77 bags of marijuana, 88 jars of meth, 12 jars containing crack, and 4 jars containing cocaine were seized. Both actors in this case were convicted felons. Second case, a traffic stop where the driver of the vehicle had an active warrant out of Upper Southampton for DUI. Your subsequent search and investigation of the vehicle led to the recovery of a Springfield .40 caliber handgun. The driver of this vehicle was also found to be a convicted felon. These are great jobs, but what separates you from the rest is the following. You have perfect attendance in 2022 and became a leader in your new role as a field training officer, training our new officers. This is in addition to serving as a member of SWAT and Honor Guard. Furthermore, you are heavily involved in our police athletic league, and you are tasked and you consistently volunteer to help coach and serve as a role model to the Bensalem youth. For your dedication, loyalty, vigilance, and teamwork, and excelling in overall job performance throughout the year, you are hereby recognized by the Bensalem Township Police Department and the Township as the 2022 Officer of the Year. Congratulations.
Whenever you need me.
Hold on, well, something from the township, myself and council. Steve, 2023, actually 2022, right, Officer of the Year. So you're ahead of yourself. We put 2023 on there. Awarded for providing outstanding police services to the citizens of Bensalem with the highest order of integrity and dependability and in a manner that exemplifies the goals of the department. And I remember swearing you in, a lot of this stuff was in there that you swore to uphold the laws of all of them, especially here in Bensalem. And I don't know how you did that. You must have got a lot of overtime.
A little bit.
I think you led the department in that.
I congratulate for myself and council here.
I'm going to say a quick word too. I'm going to add just one thing. I'd like just to add one thing.
Thank you.
You know, with Director McVeigh, all the statistics he had read, the only person in 2022 that has better statistics than you is Joel Embiid. Other than that, you're way up there.
Thank you.
Thank God. God bless you. Can we get a picture? We can. Can I have you and the mayor in the middle?
Yeah, sure.
Come over here.
Do you want to speak, Ed?
Huh?
Does he want to speak? The police officer, does he want to say?
Oh, okay. Let's get a picture. You can tell me when.
So the officers want to get in the back, so we get a group shot. Some of the uniforms, Jimmy, Keith.
What? You don't like the guy or what?
That's because
No, I just like pictures. Come on.
Bring the trees on. Why don't you bring your mom and dad up? Hey, grandma. Mom and dad, mom.
Say one thing, I'll turn it over to you. I'll say, ask somebody to say something. Thank you, gentlemen. It's always our pleasure to honor our Bensalem Police Department, #1 in Pennsylvania, #1 in the USA, Bensalem Police Department. God bless all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to turn it over to our council members, if any one of you would like to make a comment.
Yes, Mr. President. I'd just like to compliment our police department. The safety and security they put into our schools, making sure all our children in all our schools, whether it be public, private, or any of our church-going schools, they protect them all. They go in, they make sure security's done, and do all the right things to protect our community, and I think we should give them kudos for that.
Anyone else like to say something?
I would have to agree with Mr. Polari 100%. We have an amazing police force, and it's one of the reasons why I so love this township, being a lifelong resident and having had family members serve over the years and friends and now new friends on the police force. And we're very blessed in this township to have all the men and women who serve us.
Michelle?
Follow the law in Bensalem, because our council members and our mayor support our police department here. They do an incredible job. We're lucky to have them all. We pray for you, and we're thankful for you every day.
Joseph?
I'll just add quickly, I agree with Mr. Polari, and I would say that, our Bensalem Police Force, we support them, we give them the proper training, we're very, very active in the schools. I know I'm on St. Charles School Board, I'm in St. Ephraim's Parish, and they have security measures intact. But, say your prayers for the people who were killed today, and for our society, and, we have to deal with this type of thing. That's all, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Needless to say, how we support the police here in Bensalem. It's so important. What they do here, it's not Philadelphia. It's not going to be Philadelphia, and I just wish they would get their selves together down there. 80% of the crimes committed in Bensalem comes out of Philadelphia. So keep them in your prayers here. They have a tough, tough job to do, and obviously we all support them very much in everything we can do, and I deal with them on a daily basis. They're incredible men and women. God bless them, and keep them in your prayers also, as we talked about the horrendous crime today down in Nashville. So God bless.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is public comment, and that's on agenda items. If anyone would like to speak on anything that's on the agenda, please come up right now. If not, we have a second opportunity later on in the evening to also comment on the agenda items. Number 3 is going to be our council minutes, and that's for the March 13th date. Are there any corrections or changes to be made? If not, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept them as presented.
Mr. Kisselbeck, I do have some comments regarding the Section 9, 1186 Byberry Road that I sent to Ms. McBreen, but not in time for her to incorporate them into the minutes. So if you'll trust that my edits as to what I said that evening are consistent with what I said that evening, I'd ask that you amend or that you approve the agenda with the amendment to my comments from on that item.
And what are those changes?
They're purely editorial in nature as
Okay.
to what the township believes is the appropriate use of the property, what is not an appropriate use of the property, what can or can't be done there legally. I just wanted to make sure that that what I said that evening is accurately reflected in the minutes.
And our secretary has that information, correct?
It was sent to her, and as I said, before she had a chance to incorporate them into the minutes, and they were distributed to you.
Okay. Whatever it is.
So moved.
I motion the floor to accept it with the change on March 13th council minutes.
Okay, I'll second the
We have a
motion.
second on the motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. Those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Any against, any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous. Thank you. Pretty hefty minutes there, I'd say there, Debbie. Yeah, you should got paid by the word. What do you think? Okay, moving right along, we have agenda item number 4. This is a consideration, I'm sorry. Before I go on any further, Mr. Pizer, are there any changes on the agenda?
Items number 6 and 7.
Okay, 6 and 7?
Item 6 is the consideration of the preliminary and final land development for Gibson Holdings, 1515 Gibson Road. Number 7 is the resolution for the Act 537 plan, plan amendment associated with that plan. As you'll recall, the matter was tabled at council's last meeting. We received correspondence from the applicant's attorney today requesting that the application be tabled for 60 days to the council meeting of May 22nd, 2023, and granting the township the applicable extensions of time under the MPC through and including May 31 of 2023. That will afford the applicant the opportunity to address some zoning issues that are associated with the plan. As council will recall, when the plan first came into the township, it was an 8-lot subdivision. They went to the zoning hearing board, were denied variances for that plan, and they took an appeal of that denial. In the intervening time, they reduced the number of lots on the plan down to a 6-lot plan, and that was previously presented to all of you, and a hearing was commenced. At the conclusion of that hearing, or during that hearing, a number of issues were raised that the applicant requested an opportunity to go and further revise the plan. The applicant has done that. The revisions, however, have revived, if you will, the need for zoning variances that the most recent version of the plan did not. And so in order to get those variances, the applicant is going to proceed with the appeal in Doylestown to secure the variances it needs for the plan. And we will, with your blessing and your direction, my office will participate in that appeal. We will enter our appearance and work to resolve the zoning issues so that that plan can be approved.
Okay, so can I have a motion to table this to the date of May 22nd? I believe that's what you had said, as well as a motion, I guess it could be simultaneously, that we do direct our solicitor to go and represent us in the Bucks County Court.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Second on the motion. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. And against? Any abstentions? Okay, so we have that down for the May 22nd meeting, and you'll be representing us up in Doylestown. Okay, let's go on to agenda item number 4. This is a consideration of a minor subdivision. This is for, I guess it's Jose A. Sr. and Alma Nadia Rodriguez. I got that right? Yeah. Okay. And we have 2469 and 2459 Forest Avenue. These are 2 individual residential dwellings. This is a minor subdivision, tax map parcel 02-032-047. And you have representing you, who is this?
Good evening, Bryce McGuigan from Begley Carlin, here on behalf of the applicants, Jose and Alma Rodriguez.
Your last name is, I'm sorry, was what?
McGuigan,
McGuigan.
McGuigan. Yeah. sec. I have notices for Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you. And if you could just give us a general overview of what you're doing and what your intention is. You're asking for a minor subdivision, is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And obviously, thank you for having us here this evening. We're here today requesting approval of a minor subdivision application related to the property located at 2459 Forest Avenue. The property sits in the R2 residential district here in Bensalem. It's approximately 0.72 acres and is presently improved by 2 single-family detached dwellings. The subdivision application before council this evening seeks to essentially cut a line through the property, and instead of having this presently what I would describe as kind of an abnormal property where you have one larger lot with 2 separate houses on it, we're going to cut a line in the middle, and now we have 2 single-family homes on 2 separate R2 zone parcels. The resulting subdivision, the subdivision will result in 2 separate parcels that will be zoning compliant. TPD's issued a revised zoning review letter of the subdivision, rather, dated March 21st, 2023, which was just last week, where they confirmed that all of the zoning comments and issues from the application have been satisfied. As a result, we are now left with 4 separate waiver requests. The first is from section 201-41D9.
Bryson, before you go too far, if I may ask you then.
Yeah, sure.
Ask for a subdivision. Was this just one lot?
That's exactly it. It is kind of existing, one somewhat funky lot. that
Okay, because
he-
I couldn't find the original
Yeah.
line between the two. I thought maybe it was me, but.
Nope, there is no
Okay,
line.
that's
right?
what-
Yeah, from what we understand, and this is actually what Joe told me, one of the prior owners had the parcel, built 2 houses that were designed for both of his daughters, and then apparently, at some point they wanted to sell it. And, the reason why we're seeking this is obviously to convert something that's kind of an oddity in zoning right now
Okay.
here to something that's a little bit more standard. Right now, Jose and Alma live in the one house along with their daughter and their daughter's husband and family. But the plan is right now for their daughter, who's a local Bensalem School District 3rd grade teacher, to be able to live in the other home, and they're in the process of submitting plans to the township to remodel that home. And in the future, if Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter's family, they want to receive certain sort of financing or take a mortgage out on the property, it's kind of a little difficult to do when you have one parcel with 2 homes on it. Or let's say the day comes when Joe and Alma want to move.
We got it.
Yeah, there's a
We
lot
got
of common sense reasons. for it.
Okay.
I had a couple questions real quick before you go.
Sure.
I drove by because I'm familiar with the property because I used to live in the area, in the neighborhood. But one, you put a separate sewer line to the second house, the duplicate house that he built
Yes.
that no one ever lived in for 35 years? No. But you have a separate sewer line because before it used to have 1 sewer for 2 houses, but now it has 2, right?
Yeah, yep.
No, it wasn't, there wasn't always 2, but there is now.
It-
Yeah, there was 2, but there wasn't prior to that. But there is now, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and then, do you need an easement to drive, because this driveway was always in the center, right? Is the line split in the driveway, or are they gonna have separate driveways?
There are actually separate driveways there now. There may have been at one point shared driveways, but if you look at the plan, it's kind of difficult to see from this distance. But there are 2 identical houses, each with the driveway, when you're facing the house, on the right side.
Okay, good.
Oh, John's
All right, that's good.
helping us out here.
Yeah, you've done a great job. It looks nice. It looks nice. I mean, thanks for getting rid of the barbed wire fence, and that was a plus. Yeah. That was a gross-
Okay, you can continue on. Let's do exactly as you had asked. We'll go to March 21st, 2023. Subdivision and land development ordinance. You're asking for several waivers, is that correct?
That is correct.
Let's start with number 1.
All right, so going through by number. Waiver number 1, that's a waiver from the requirement that the plan show all existing features within 400 feet. I would submit as a standard waiver, especially for a residential development of this
Fine.
limited size.
We
and scope.
understand.
The next 3 all relate to existing conditions on the property in the neighborhood. The second waiver is to require not require cartway widening and curbing. The third is to not require curbing, and the fourth is to not require a sidewalk to be constructed in a spot where there are currently no sidewalks
all
or
right.
curbs, and obviously that would look a little funky.
Let me ask Mr. Pizzo a question.
Sure.
Joseph, since this is only a subdivision and not a land development, would they be subject to a fee in lieu of for the not putting in the curbs and the sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so then there would be a fee in lieu of.
Whatever fees in lieu of
Okay.
are required.
So you
obviously.
agree to that for number 2 and number 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. And,
It's 3 and 4.
I'm sorry,
For numbers, 3 and 4.
That's curved.
well, I have 3 and 4, 3,
one
2 and
doesn't.
3 are mine.
One does and one doesn't.
Okay. I have section 201, 110, and 201, 111. But we're down requested waivers is what you're looking at. I got you. All right, and then, and there was the other one. We have, as was just pointed out to me, there's also a waiver, which is requiring a plan to show all the existing features within 400 feet. How are you asking that to be a waiver? What do
We're
you-
asking for that to be a waiver because of the limited nature and limited scope of this development, and what we've provided is an aerial
Okay,
in
you have the
in lieu
aerial.
of that.
All right, that's fine. Okay, we have it. All right, are there any questions from our council member at this time? Not hearing any. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and make a comment on this proposal? Not seeing anyone, I'm going to ask for a motion to be put on the floor for this subdivision.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion for Jose A. Senior and Alma Nydia Rodriguez, 2409 and 2459 Forest Avenue, tax parcel 02-032-047, to grant approval of the minor subdivision and the 4 waivers that have been requested.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor.
Just a quick correction, it's 2469 and 2459 Forest. I believe you, yep, okay.
2469, 24, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Okay,
All right,
and
how about a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second on the motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. Those who in favor would signify with an aye. Aye. Any against? Any abstentions? I would say welcome to Bensalem, but I guess I could say that to your daughter. All right, good luck. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So glad to see the barbed wire gone.
I don't know. I should bring my glasses though so I can read.
I know, I couldn't see anything. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, consideration of a preliminary and final subdivision. Let's have a little respect over here, gentlemen, over there. This is agenda item number 5. Iftikhar and Asha Chaudhry. How's that?
You're still stuck with me.
Well, you're a gentleman, so we're glad to have you.
While they prepare, can we just confirm the location of the tax parcel is 1209 Crespo? Is that correct? Only because the,
Oh, we have two, 1206
our
and 1209.
worksheet has 1206
Yeah, we have two
listed.
addresses, right? Yeah.
Is it 1209?
Making me second guess myself. I thought it was 1206 Crespo Lane. It's
The agenda must
1206.
be wrong.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
1206.
1206. Thank
It
you.
is 1206. So
The
the
agenda's
agenda, the agenda's wrong, but the
Thank you.
application is correct. All right.
Yes.
I try to make sure the applications are accurate. I'm generally okay with it.
So this is actually a lot line change, is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
All right, a lot line change. Okay, you want to give us a general overview of what's happening here first, and then we'll go through the letter as we had done just a moment ago.
Of course. 1206 Crespo Lane, it's a residential property zoned RA1. Single-family attached dwelling sits on the home, and we're here today essentially because the property owner, the applicant, had an addition built onto the property, and unfortunately, the addition was not built correctly. And it was so incorrect that not only was it not where it was permitted, but rather it went over the property line of our neighbor. Fortunately, in a typical situation, obviously this would be catastrophic for a variety of reasons, but in this particular situation, we were fortunate in that our neighbor happens to be our uncle. So he's fortunately working with us for this lot line change to help minimize the amount of waste and the amount of problems that result from it. So
Okay.
ultimately, what you see here is you see the plan. The house to the left of the plan is 12.
May I interrupt you just for one moment? Could you
Yes.
give us a tax map parcel?
Sure. So the tax map parcel number is 02-072-478.
All right, thank you,
That
Bruce.
is 1206 Crespo. The other property at issue here, the property to the right, that's 1204 Crespo, and that's 02-072-077. Those are the two properties at issue. If you look at the property on the left, that's the house at issue, and you see there was an addition to the side that initially went over the property line. Now, what the plan here is to remove the rear 10 feet of the addition in order to be compliant with rear yard, because this was so incorrectly done that there was a rear yard setback issue, a side yard setback issue, and an impervious surface issue.
Was there ever permits to do this, or they just did it on their own?
I don't mean to interrupt. There was a permit, however, the contractor, from what we understand, pulled from the wrong pin and property line marker and made the addition rather larger than it was initially intended and initially permitted. We did not request the township come out and perform confirm that when we staked everything out that it was accurate. We didn't ask for that, so the township did not come out and do that work.
closed the permit out.
No, well, correct. And what happened was during the construction phase, that's when the township realized there was an issue, issued a cease and desist, and at that point we did stop all work. We received a special exemption from the township to actually finish the exterior of the structure to make sure it was weather safe and weather tight. But at this point, obviously, when that happened, we then went to zoning. We did not receive our relief at zoning. So at this point, we then sat down to try to see, okay, what can we do within the parameters of the ordinance? So what we landed on was we're going to remove the back 10 feet of the addition, which will bring us into rear yard compliance. And then we are proposing, this is why we're here tonight, a small lot line change with our neighbor to allow the side yard to become compliant.
Is the back part of that, you're talking about the 10 feet, is that the bottom of the diagram that you have there, of the print?
Jim, can you show us the existing features plan? I think page 2. Yeah, so this shows
Okay,
a
all
little
right,
easier.
now I see, because I thought maybe it went to the very edge there, but I see it now, 10 foot,
Can
that
you
makes
increase the
sense.
size for me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you look at this, you see the back area, that's shaded. And you can also see that, again, it's over the property
I can see it
line.
now,
Yeah.
on this plan, right, okay.
I don't think it's even shown on the first plan
No, it's
because
not,
that's
okay.
not part of our application. So
Okay.
by removing the rear 10 feet, which is going to come at obviously a rather large cost, together with the lot line change, both properties will be 100% compliant with Bensalem from a zoning perspective and a saldo perspective.
Now, when you change the lot line, what you're saying is a relative and they agree that they're giving up a piece of their property?
Correct, and
Okay.
they're co-applicants.
Okay. And do you then meet the side yard setbacks, or do you need a variance for side yard?
We meet the side yard setback, we do not need any variances.
Okay.
Yeah, and that aspect has been confirmed through TPD's most recent review letter. There are no zoning issues as a result of
Okay,
this.
so you took enough ground so you have proper setbacks?
Bingo,
Okay.
bingo,
All right.
that's it. And obviously, this is something that, look, tries, what you see before you makes what we think is the best of a bad situation. We got lucky, to be honest. We got lucky that we happened to know the neighboring property owner. You're never trying to obviously build over someone else's property, but, fortunately, this provides a resolution to this issue.
I find
Well,
it hard to believe
yeah,
that
really.
our township department wouldn't be checking on that the whole time through. So it leads me to believe this was done without going by the plans that were given to the township, done, finished, and then I guess afterwards. I've never seen something like this happen, that the township didn't go out there and check to make sure that the things were in the right place, the footers were correct, and things of that nature. Our building and planning department just doesn't do that. So to me,
Electric, everything.
this says to me that this was done, we don't care, we're going to do it, and that's all there is to it, and then we'll say we're sorry later and go in for a lot line change. Is the neighbor next door related to the neighbor that's doing the lot line change?
So the neighbor to the side of our property, on the right side, you see there that's working with us, yes, that is our
So
relative.
they're relatives.
What I can say is a couple things, because this issue did come up at zoning, and this was an issue at zoning, and we actually had to continue the first hearing because the board members had such concerns over exactly how does this go so far. And between the first hearing and the second hearing, Mr. Farrell did look into the issue, and from what I recall going back several months, actually probably 6 to 8 months now, what I believe was the issue was we were permitted. However, what happens is the township, I don't believe, automatically goes out to inspect when you lay those footers. You have to request that as the applicant, as the permittee. Yeah, they have to know you're doing it. Yeah, and we didn't request that. So that was one of the issues, and, obviously, there's a reason why you should request that.
Well, it has to be, and that's what happens.
Well,
and
the reason
when-
why you don't request it too is if you're taking it bigger than you bought.
Right, the builders know that they have to request when they put footers in, that they have to have them come out and do it. So this was just all a deal of, hey, if we're just gonna do what we gotta do, be done with it, and we'll say we're sorry later, which, to me.
Was there any punitive damages initiated by the township towards this applicant?
No, nothing yet. And as full background, so when we were denied at zoning, we did take an appeal of that denial just to stay the code enforcement process while we were moving forward with this. At the end of the day, the appeal has not progressed because we don't have an intention to, because we're here trying to, look, we know that we made mistakes and our contractor made mistakes. And I can tell you as a fact, Mr. Chaudhry's uncle was not pleased that we're taking his property, and he begrudgingly is amenable to this just because of the negative ramification that would result.
So you're keeping the right side of the extension of the home, is that correct?
That is correct.
And demolishing the back side?
Correct.
And that just came out of the clear blue sky, that 10-foot in the back, is that right? Like all of a sudden it just appeared?
No,
So why'd you have to take the 10 feet off the back?
to make it rear yard compliant.
Or else you would have needed a variance?
Correct.
So everything was done
okay.
illegally is what's coming down, it's coming down to.
It was.
They did the extra 10 feet, they went on the other person's property line. I mean, there was plans that were submitted to the township. Apparently, they didn't do it within the plan, what the plans were with the township. So it says to me, we're gonna do what we wanna do and we don't care. And you don't have zoning approval.
No.
So you're trying to go around the zoning approval by coming here and asking for a lot line change.
Well, we're also, so a couple things, if I may, because, again, we went through this multiple times in front of the zoning hearing board, and these were real concerns. Exactly everything that you're saying, Mr. Councilman, they were saying as well. And part of it's difficult to say here, but the actual plans that were submitted by our contractor, they were essentially just hand-drawn. They were very, very poor. If you see those plans and you see what happened, obviously there's no justifying it, but it's more believable to see how someone who submitted plans that were so rough and roughshod can cut
And
corners.
you're saying our building and planning department accepted those plans and approved it upon hand-drawn plans that made no sense?
Well, no,
Is that what
they
you're
made
saying?
sense, but it's just, you look at it and you would expect something that's a little bit more professional.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Stace, when you're done,
Yeah,
I want
sure.
to get Quentin to come up. and-
Yeah, because I've submitted plans for an addition on my property, and they were with electrical and everything, and long before, when I first moved back to the township and moved my home, and bought my home. And I went through the whole process, and it was very grilling, in a sense, to make sure my footings were poured properly and every single thing. And knowing the people in building and planning, I know they get a bad rap at times for various things, but they are very good at that and looking at the plans, because as you can see, we have all these plans in front of us every week. So I'm just taking a little offense that you're saying that our groups are not doing a good job all the time.
That's not what I was saying. If that's what it sounded like, then I apologize. What I'm saying is we did not do our job. And the plans that were submitted were not the most professional plans I have seen in my career, let's put it that way. However, they were compliant. They were compliant, and ultimately, we did not follow through by following those plans. And that's what the issue was. If we followed through, if our contractor did the plans that were approved by the township, went through Quentin's office, that went through Ken's office, then yeah, there would be no issue. But unfortunately, we put our trust in somebody who was not overly professional, and it wound up being remarkably
Right, but that's not this board's problem.
But wouldn't you notice that there was a 10-foot extension being added onto your home, and you're saying you didn't know anything about it?
How long
like-
ago was the addition put on?
I mean, that's kind of comical. I mean, I know you're presenting, I know you're an attorney, and you're speaking the legalese talk to us, but if we were sitting down having a cup of coffee, you would say to me, hey, it was built illegally. That's what you would say to me.
How long ago?
It was approximately, give or take, around maybe 8 months to a year, give or
again?
take,
How many?
about 8 months to a year.
Can I have Quentin
8
come
months
up
to a
here?
year ago?
I have one more question before this is topic, just real
Go
quick.
ahead.
If you take the 10-foot off the back, right?
He'll come in after he gets done.
Takes that, right? And you get the lot line change, do you then, you don't need zoning relief at that point, right?
Correct.
That's what he's saying.
Okay, you just need the lot line change,
That's
Correct.
what he's
and
saying.
you're willing to dump the back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're considering, all right?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Quentin, you want to come up and give
I
me
just
some
need
comments on this? So
Otherwise, we're gonna go to
this
court.
involves you in many ways. And Phil,
They're gonna-
are you good with everything that's being said so far?
I am, these types of things come up. That's all.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just to give a quick history on our end from our aspect. Initially, when the plans come in this case, we don't require an engineered site plan to be submitted. So people can draw their own plans with the proper information. I believe I did the first review, it was rejected because I know the area and I knew we have engineered plans for when the Crespo project was built. I checked the files out, actually went out just to double check, rejected it, basically saying setbacks that you're providing us are not accurate, and we do believe you might be crossing the line. A resubmission did come in with new dimensions, when it was then reviewed by another party. I believe Russ Benner did that review at that time, and it did comply. At that point, I believe this was in the summer of 2021, we were actually paving Park Avenue at the time. My paving crew was actually on Crespo Lane for staging. So I was there at 6:30 in the morning doing that job and actually saw the construction being done and was like, wait a second, I remember rejecting this. Let me just take a peek. I came in the office at 7:30, saw the new plans, saw the revisions. I brought that attention to Ken Farrell. He says, go out. We remeasured everything, confirmed it was over the line by a little bit, and it definitely was meeting some zoning issues. So that's when the stop work order was posted. So it was really an improper drawing from the contractor that started this whole
Now, was the back
fiasco.
ever on the plans?
The back, I believe, was on the plans as well.
Okay.
The
But if you
dimensions
issued a
from
stop work order, how did they continue to,
Well, they were allowed to winterize, because by this
Okay.
time when we got there, the concrete was already done. The second floor is up, pretty much the roof was exposed, the interior of the house was exposed, so they were allowed to weatherproof it, we'll say,
okay.
at that point.
That's what
And
he
that's
said.
where, and that's been sitting like that for a good year, at least.
Okay, so they never finished the
That's not,
interior
they
of
haven't
the-
done any further work, like the
of the
addition
tent.
itself has not done any further construction, as far as I know.
So did they get permits at all?
The permits were obtained, but like I was saying earlier, the dimensions that were provided by the contractor weren't accurate, so.
All right, so they made up figures to accommodate meeting the requirements of the township, but went beyond that and built it as they would like to have their
Well,
built.
I don't, like I said, I don't have the paperwork in front of me. Typically what we do is when we have a setback issue, if you tell us it's 12 feet and you're required 15, we tell you that your minimum is 15 feet. A lot of times people have done is just change that 12, change the size and make it 15 feet because they know what the code is. So in this case, our office does not do stakeout inspections on projects like this. So we would not have caught this until the final inspection unless we were on that street during that paving.
And why wouldn't we do a stakeout inspection for concrete on a
We only do,
two-story?
we don't do, years ago, we used to do stakeouts for all work.
Yes,
But-
because you did my house.
Correct. For new houses, we do. For additions, we do not anymore.
Don't you check foundations, like to make sure the foundation?
Building inspectors go out for the footing inspection. We do not. So in the case, on this permit here for this addition, the only work that we would have done would be the final inspection. And that's it.
Did someone go out and look at the footings when they were?
I believe so. That'll be code inspections.
Okay,
So
so
I don't
they
have
don't
records.
realize where they're supposed to be? They just look
No,
at the
they're
deed.
pretty much looking at the size of the house and the footing for the depth, and that's it.
Do they have to take the concrete up and the footings also out of the ground to prevent additional future temptation?
As of right now, I don't believe that the demolition has happened on the rear of the house for the addition.
Has not, it will.
But I'm asking about the footings and the concrete,
If that's supposed to be removed, that would all need to be removed.
so that would be removed too? Okay, okay.
So you have to have new footings done then,
The back
for the
footings
new
would have
back,
to go.
the new wall?
Well, the existing house is already there. They added 10 feet onto that house.
Right.
So that new footing and wall would need to be removed if that's what you approved to.
Right.
Okay, wait,
The new footing in the back will be removed.
The very
The
rear.
the footings are already completed. The addition's already there.
where's the addition? On the right?
It would be
On
that
this side.
large square on the right-hand
It's
side.
just that large square.
Yeah,
And so there was 10 feet on the back that they had,
correct. There's an addition. If you go back to the other page, there's a 10-foot addition across the entire rear of the building. That's
Okay.
that's existing currently. Now, this plan here is showing that that's being removed.
so when they remove that additional 10 feet,
There it is,
that
yes,
has
yeah.
no impact on the new addition needing new footings or anything?
No, it doesn't need it.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if any of this concrete here was part of the wall there already.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
it would be the sides and the back would have the footings, they'd be attached to the house. Interesting. Okay. Are there any other part of the presentation?
Were notices sent out, like, that we're doing this, or they don't need notices?
Oh, yeah.
For a lot line change? I don't think we need a notice for a lot line change.
Yeah, but for the building, we're changing it because of the building.
For the demolition?
Take the 10 feet off.
This is one addition, this is two additions. This is all one addition. This is the addition that went over the line. Was this part of that? That's when I'm confused, because if I understand this whole thing.
What's that? I know, 2 stories.
Two stories, I don't know if that's the case.
I don't know. Yeah. All right, Bryson, you want to continue your presentation, or have you made your,
Yeah, so I mean, just, I guess briefly, you know, I know that there are a lot of background issues here, and that there were a number of balls dropped. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like there were any balls dropped on the township's end. It was kind of more so on ours and our contractors. But as a result, that's why we're here, and that's why, you know, the property owner has had to incur significant engineering costs, legal costs, and the demolition of that and the rebuilding of the rear of that addition is going to be quite substantial. Like I said, fortunately, we are, if this is approved, we will be zoning compliant, 100%. The only waiver we're requesting tonight is a waiver from, a plan waiver to not require all existing features within 400 feet. And what we would submit is we would prepare an aerial in lieu of that, similar to the prior application. That's the only waiver we need. TPD, in their review, they observed that we would be required to plant additional street trees and additional trees within each of the lots. We're more than happy to pay that fee in lieu rather than install or rather than plant those trees. So that way we're still in keeping with the rest of the homes in the subdivision. Like I said, it's an unfortunate situation that we're here, and we did try to go through zoning because of the amount of costs and effort involved in having to demolish that addition in whole or in part. And, you know, the zoning hearing board heard the applications, didn't think it was necessary. So we heard that, and now we're here before you tonight, where we're sitting there saying, we will remove a significant chunk of this addition and otherwise go through the effort in order to make this compliant with zoning. It's still going to be an incredible hardship to the property owner, but look, we screwed up and we got to take that on the chin. So like I said, we're here requesting this approval of this minor lot line change. And like I mentioned earlier, I want to correct myself. I thought I did this application. I was not the one who prepared this, and our neighbor is not a named co-applicant. He is more than happy to allow us to go forward today, and we will provide in writing a authorization that our neighbor is in favor of this, and we would be obviously condition any approval upon my office providing Mr. Pizzo with that authorization. Like I said, it was begrudging, I can tell you that, but he does authorize us to be here tonight, and you know, we do appreciate it. I know that the board has, or the council's already asked a number of questions. Council has any additional questions? Obviously, I'm here.
I have a comment.
Yes.
And I'm sincere when I say this. You know, you're in front of us and you're saying, oh, we made a mistake and we're going to have to take it on the chin. As if you're being wronged by the township. As opposed to you saying to us, we lied to you and we built it because that's how we wanted to build it, and now we're here trying to resolve the problem. That's being honest to me. So, you know, come back and restate that, and I would appreciate that.
So this was not intentional on our part. It really wasn't. I mean, to be blunt, to your comment earlier, sir, candidly, you're sitting there going, wait, is this a little bigger than I thought? Like, you think that might be something that someone might see. And yes, it was probably a situation here where it's going, is that a little larger? Maybe. But that, when you look at it and go, all right, maybe our
Come on,
contractor
Bryson,
got
you're
it.
playing the game. Stop it. Please,
No.
just, you know what? Just stop your presentation. Let's take it from there. Let's go to section, page 2,
Can I ask a question, Mr. Pye?
okay? Come on.
Did you get notifications to the residents, the neighbors in the area that this was going through? And if not, why not?
Yes, well, a couple comments during the hearing. One, the clarification of the addresses at issue, coupled with my review of the notices to the adjacent property owners, which I might add are in order. But among the individuals being notified is 1204 Crespo Lane, which prompted my sidebar with Mr. McGuigan to say, at the moment, there's nothing that's in front of me that indicates that 1204 is a part of this application.
Correct. That was my next question.
Now, there may be something that was submitted to the township that just didn't make it into our packets. That is possible. But there's nothing, the application itself is only for 1206. The plan itself only shows 1206 as being the applicant. It obviously references both lots, but the Farouks are not named on here as being part of the application. That coupled with the fact that notice was mailed to them, which is not typically what you do to a co-applicant, led me to ask Mr. McGuigan if in fact 1204 is in fact a co-applicant on this, because obviously their lot line is about to be changed if you approve this. Normally, they would either be a co-applicant or there would be some sort of a legal document that would give the Chaudhrys standing to say it's okay to change their lot line, because obviously the Farouk lot is, I guess, being made smaller, or at least the lot line, the lot line is being moved closer to their residence. So I asked Bryce if he could take a fast look in his file just to make sure. Again, the notices to the neighboring property owners are in order, and I don't know if Mr. or Mrs. Farouk are here. They don't appear to be. So that's, on the other hand, an indication that,
But why would we even want to consider this without having the written agreement with to do a lot line change without a written agreement from the neighbor who's giving up some of his property to make this happen? So I don't even understand why this is in front of us tonight.
I'd agree, and I have a couple of comments. I would like to see the agreement in writing from the owner at 1204, or a joint application, either seems to be sufficient. I would then like to see the demolition completed, and then come to us and ask us for the property line change with the proper agreement in place. I don't know why this is being presented to us without action being taken on your part.
Well, so obviously, we'll be more than happy to comply with amending the application and having something signed by the owner of 1204 to be a part of this. That was an oversight. You should have had that with you tonight, and we apologize. With regard to doing the actual demolition work, the problem with that would be to do the demolition work is fine, but then if we're reforming the side of the addition with the understanding that, okay, this is what's going to be here, if our permit is denied, if this application is denied, then that whole addition probably needs to get torn down. So to incur those additional costs to do demolition and to refinish that rear side, obviously the demolition would have to get done no matter what, but if this application is approved, we do get to save a portion of the addition. If this application is denied, then we likely cannot save any of the addition, and that would be extra costs involved that, to refinish something that we're going to have to tear down.
I would say in good faith, begin.
I don't understand what you're saying.
And-
Either way, you're going to have to.
You have to
Anyway,
begin the
anyway you look at it,
process.
You're going to have to have demolition of the 10
Of
foot.
course, but the other thing, which I believe Quentin mentioned, the exterior of this addition has been done. The interior, it still looks like a warehouse, and this is connected to the property owner's home that him and his family are living in right now. So you have the standard home, but then you have the other part that it looks like you're going into a meat cooler with just, the bare bones.
So how long has this been going on again now, since you've been in front of zoning and doing all this? You've known about the demolition? No, it's a year from last summer, or 21 it
Approximately,
went through,
Yeah.
is when it first got approved for permits.
with you.
And then when did you go in front of zoning? And then come up with this proposal?
So zoning was last summer. I believe it was July or August.
Okay, so since then, you knew that you guys were working this plan out, trying to figure out a lot line change. I don't know
Yes.
the timetable of events. And at some point, have there been any requests for demolition expenses to say we're engaged as soon as this, is approved? To Ms. Benitez's point, in good faith, we have engaged in order to be compliant, because I guess my one question is, we approve this, and then do you go in front of zoning again and ask for another zoning variance on the backside? And then if that gets denied, then do you go
Go to court.
Go to court, and then you get it. And then it's.
So what I would say as far as good faith goes, we have that technical appeal of the zoning decision. I talked to Mr. Panzer literally the day I filed it, said, hey, we are just filing this, but we're not proceeding forward in good faith because we are going forward with this plan. And this is just
Well, I'm
to
sorry, you're appealing the original, the
The
original
denial.
denial for the back and then the side going into Mr. Farouk's property and having no side yard and then
Correct.
the impervious surface and all that?
The reason for that, that appeal was just to stay any enforcement proceedings so that we would not have to demolish the whole addition, because the hope was, as soon as that happened, we sat down and obviously got Jim's office involved to see, is there a way to save some of this addition while satisfying zoning?
I personally don't want to hurt the homeowners anymore, but, this does seem, it was extremely, I don't know, I want to say
It's a lot more
short-sighted.
than one mistake, right?
It's a-
And now you're coming in saying, oh, it was a mistake.
And
It should,
we don't know when we're going to demolish it. It could be 10 years from now.
We would happily agree to some sort of condition in terms of a timeline for submission of demolition permits. That's not an issue. Because trust me, what I can tell you is,
To Mr. Kisselback, why were they not, why has that not been presented, that as part of this whole thing, that with the permit, or can we, or you have to wait for the lot line change? Like,
Well,
I
'cause,
don't,
again, part of that is when we submit and get approval, we can't really go forward with it until we have a decision on this lot line change, because if we're denied, then we're going to resubmit permits to demolish the entire structure. So why would we go forward
When you
with that?
say
and
the
make-
entire structure, you're talking about the 10-foot in the back?
no, I was talking about the whole addition.
The other addition.
And
Because
the right side
Right
too,
here.
is that what you're saying?
the whole
Okay,
addition
that's your
essentially would
argument.
need to
Okay.
get demolished.
All right.
So we
Right.
would basically be coming up with additional demolition plans and resubmitting and having your office review extraneous plans. I understand, here's what I'll say. This has been going on for a long time, and there were a number of mistakes involved. Yes, we'll sadly admit to that. But what I can also say is that we've gone through a number of plans that we've submitted to the township. We've gone through a certain amount of iterations to try to find something that worked. And fortunately, this does, from a zoning perspective, and, look, from a perspective of trying to salvage as much as we can.
Now, the building on the right side, is that also not finished interior-wise? The interior of that is not finished, or is that is?
The entire addition, the entire added space, that is not finished on the inside. It
Okay.
is still completely unfinished, uninsulated.
Now, I have one question. If we ever got to a point where we're considering this or approving this, the back addition that you're demolishing, is that foundation connected to the side foundation that we're approved? That was your question, I couldn't answer it, so, yeah. So you would have to saw off or something, like the connection, and redo the side foundation?
It would, I don't know exactly what work is involved in that, but
Well, if
yes.
it's
it
connected
would-
with cement, you have to
Yes.
saw it off, right?
We would have to.
Whatever, how you get rid of it, but.
So in terms of doing these plans, when you're thinking about
I'm just
this-
asking Quentin, they would have to re-inspect the new foundation, right? And make sure it's done correct.
So has any site work been done by engineers to ensure that for going forward? I mean, yeah, you're giving us this plan here, but I mean, we don't have to necessarily know, but to me, it doesn't even sound like you've gone through that work yet to ensure that, okay, yeah, we take off this 10 feet and we know what we have to do to ensure that the new addition that's remaining is going to be safe and according to our ordinances and done appropriately with all the permits needed and the timelines and the requests for inspections as needed.
Can I see that? You put up the extension in the back, 10 foot, but I don't see anything on the right side. Where's the extension there? Is that
So
little?
the whole,
Here, bring that
so
to you.
what I'm tracing with my cursor here, this whole area is the part of the extension, along with
What's the new extension on the
down here
right-hand side?
and over here. This whole L shape is essentially the building addition.
That whole big square?
Yeah,
This whole chunk.
and went completely over into Ferg's property.
It was already a large addition. However, because of the mistakes, it became a
So how much
Larger
square footage did
addition.
you add?
It's pretty big.
Here it is.
It'll be 15 by 15, 225 square feet.
They're always gonna have it beside addition.
correct.
What's the square footage of the addition once, if you got approved, the addition that, when you change the lot?
Yeah, okay, I thought it was like this is coming up, that's what it could, yeah. Oh, that's a big, that's gotta be 25 by 25, you think? 15 by 15? Anyway, 15 by 15.
Even, I have a question. So even if the addition were reduced on the back end with taking the 10 feet off, they just pointed out, if you could bring that back up.
You're doing a little rough math here.
If I'm reading the plan correctly, Mr. Knowles, the existing dwelling prior to construction was 2,647. The building addition as constructed, or as was being constructed, was another 2,622.
You're saying that they added
According to the
2,622?
sheet, according to sheet 2 of 5 of the plan, the existing house is 2,647 square footprint. The illegal building addition language that's on the plan, illegal building addition, 2,622 square feet, for a total of the existing dwelling with the building addition would be 5,269 square feet. What they're proposing to do would be to remove 906 square feet of the building addition so that the resultant structure would be 4,363 square feet. Is that correct, Mr. McGuigan?
2,000.
That is correct, yes.
I don't see any way that we can approve anything here without having all the legal documents, the agreement between the neighbor with giving them the lot line. I think you need to get together with Mr. Pizzo. Mr. Pizzo, you've heard everything, all the questions we've had tonight. You know what's concerning us, correct? Mr. Pizzo?
Yes, I've heard.
So my suggestion is that this has to be continued, and he should get together with you and get the legal documents together on the lot line change, and figure out what we have to do with everything else to make sure that especially from Quentin and from Ken Farrell, to make sure that when they take down that 10-foot addition, it's not going to affect the other addition. Now we come in with another problem later. I think all that should be done before we even consider this at this point.
But also, let's just say the back end, the 10 feet addition on the back end of the property is removed. You're still left with about 2,000 square feet of an addition. That's the addition portion, 4,663 total square feet on a home that was originally 2,647 square feet, okay?
But don't you
So,
need a zoning variance?
and then the addition is going to line up with that property line. And is that appropriate? Is that not, should there not be some sort of buffer or footage between the actual property line and the building structure?
They're saying they meet that.
On the right side, there is, you don't see it on that one, but another.
I'm not seeing that, I'm seeing,
And that's where
This-
you're making a property line change.
So that's the existing features. If we can go, Jim, to
Yeah, so
They need to show you another.
Okay.
yeah, so here's what it will look like.
I had the same
And-
question.
Yeah, so we do meet the setbacks, so there's going to be space between us and the property line, obviously.
Show us the one with the new proposed,
This is the
line.
proposal. If this is, this is with the line that's moved.
without the line being moved.
Oh, without the line being moved, so if you
And the
look here,
current addition
it does.
on the side of the property, how many feet away from the property line would the addition be?
the second page.
So the second page is basically, this is what's there now. And you see the back end of the addition across the property line. That's what's there now.
Right, so I'm saying, if I put a shed in my yard next to a fence, a property line, it needs to be a certain amount of feet away from the fence line.
Correct.
Why, right, there are 0 feet away
Right.
from the property line with this building addition.
All right, now, so.
Even if we move the property
So we want to
line.
see the new proposed line, is what we want to see.
Yes.
We want to see a drawing of the new
And the old.
addition with the side setbacks, not.
A rendering?
Where?
Yeah, so this right here,
There's the new one.
so this has both lines on here, just so that everyone can tell. So the dark
okay.
line, so the dark line in the middle here would be the
12 feet,
proposed new
okay.
line. This dotted line that's shaded up light gray, like I'm tracing with my cursor right here, that's the current line. So you see the back end of the addition crosses the line. Now, this does not have the rear 10 feet that we're removing, which cross the line a little more severely, but this has both. So you will still have over 12 feet between our building and the property line. There's no actual buffering that's required because it's one residence to another residence, but we do satisfy the setbacks, we do satisfy impervious. We've provided stormwater management plans to the township engineer for their review. So, like I said, this.
But I have one question. So I see the setbacks and I see the stormwater management. So you don't need a variance for doubling the size of a house?
Correct. We are within building coverage, within
They got a
impervious
pretty big
surface.
lot to begin with, they probably.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, I thought you were building something that was more than so many square feet of your
now,
house.
initially,
Get a
because
variance.
the building exceeded the permits by such a degree, yes, it was over on impervious, not building coverage. But with us removing a significant portion of the addition, we're now below impervious, and we were always below building coverage. And this little cul-de-sac here, there are lots larger homes on the lots. So this does fit with the community, albeit it was somewhat unintentional.
But you need a lot line change because you've gone over the lot line into the other guys, so.
Of course.
I want to see a drawing with the setbacks. I want to see what the setbacks are between the Chaudhry piece and the Farouk piece. Where's the setbacks? You can't be built right on the property line. There's got to be a setback.
It's on,
So-
it's
Can I-
page one.
Can I make a quick comment regarding that? That's shown on the plan that there's going to be at least a 12-foot setback between where the new property is, and the existing property that is in violation.
Right.
So they'll have 12 feet of setback. And then the other side of the line, the new line, will have a 15-foot setback.
I
So-
understand, but
so-
there's no legal line because there's no legal agreement, and that's what I'm.
Well, I
that's
agree,
what I'm getting
I
at.
agree with you. So with regard to, and Mr. Pizzo's point regarding approving something without permission of the property owner is one thing. I just want to assure you all, I mean,
It's the most important thing. Bill.
it is, but I'm telling you with regard to what's on the plan is what you're asking for. It's already on the plan.
I do
They
want-
just did not provide with the ownership of that. And to another question regarding permits, they will have to get new permits for the demolition, even after you do the property line, after they come back with the correct ownership issues. They're gonna need new permits for everything, demolition and for the location of the existing structure.
See, it would be I'm sorry, go ahead.
None of that was the questions I was asking, so I appreciate you coming in and answering everybody else's questions, but I don't see any way we can do this without seeing everything legal, the lot line being done legal, the setbacks being done legal, with the lot line change being legal, all that stuff is what I'm saying. And we don't have that today because it's not legal. So until we have those, I think you need to get together with Mr. Pizzo, you need to get this right and get it in here. This isn't something that we would do every day for residents of the township. I mean, people, we think we have, for less than this, made people take things down and because they went against the plans and what they were approved for. So what you're asking for now is for us to approve something without even a written agreement between the two neighbors that they're gonna agree to this lot line. You can't expect us to do that. That's asking us to do something that we put our reputations on the line for you even to ask that.
I would, in my opinion, would be this, based on your presentation and what you're showing us here today, is that since the, I'm going to say egregious building of the back 10-foot part of it was done prior to any consideration whatsoever on a lot line change, and now you're coming in asking for a lot line change, that I believe that that should be resolved first, whether it's the demolition of the building or whether it's an agreement by our solicitor in terms of making sure that's going to be done. That has to be resolved first. After that's resolved, then we can look at the lot line change and consider that. So I think it should be a two-phase process, not one all in one. This was done before there was any consideration of any change of the lot. And if you weren't caught, I don't think it would have been addressed anyway. So I think that has to be addressed first. The demolition of the property, the rear property, and the side part of it, either in a legal type of a form agreement with some kind of a, I don't know if there would be an ESCO involved with that or something on that end of it to make sure it's going to be done. I think there could be and should be in terms of the demolition part of it. And that should be resolved first, and then when that's finished, we can go into lot line change, and it should be easy as pie to go with that.
As long as we have a joint agreement between the two property owners.
Yeah, well, that's, goes with
Yeah,
the
that
lot
goes
line
with-
change, exactly
And
right.
that can be done on the same night, but you need to work that out with Mr. Pizzo and get it done to protect us as a township, us as a council, to make sure that we're doing our job properly and not just approving things on people's word. I want to see it in writing. I want to see it in writing. I want to see the setbacks in writing with the new property. I want to see all that at one time, once all the legal agreements are made up on the lot line change.
Joseph?
And I think that resident who's giving up the lot line change should be here too. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but I think he should have to be here when you
course.
get
I'm going to ask this to be tabled, but prior to that, I want to make sure that you're in agreement with things that we've just mentioned this evening in terms of some kind of legal agreement or the actual demolition of that building, and what Mr. Polari just said relative to everything being prepared, and/or in fact being done, in my opinion, a two-phase process, the demolition being taken care of and done, either physically or legally, and then come back to us for a lot line change. Is there anything we need to do before we would suggest a tabling of this project?
No, I think Mr. McGuigan and I have both heard counsel, and so if counsel is of a mind to table, that will afford, that'll afford Mr. McGuigan the opportunity to establish standing or co-application status for either standing for Mr. Chaudhry, Mr. and Mrs. Chaudhry to apply for the lot line change on behalf of the neighboring property owner, or to otherwise make it a co-application. It'll afford us opportunity to come up with a plan or a timeline for demolition of whatever's going to be demolished. And again, as to your question, Mr. Kisselback, yes, and I think Mr. McGuigan conceded this early in his presentation. The township, upon discovering what was happening, was certainly within its right to require the immediate removal of the offending structure from the neighboring property owner's property line and out of the setback area. Township didn't do that. Township allowed it to remain and further allowed the applicant to enclose and seal the work that had been done so as to maintain the status quo until he and the township were able to figure out what was going to happen next. So,
Yeah, and my point would be, regardless of the lot line change or not, he still has to take the 10-foot building down.
So to the extent that the township is now asking for some sort of a timeline and a process for the removal of some or all of the offending structure as part of this approval, or at least the consideration of the approval, again, I think Mr. McGuigan will concede that's more than fair, more than reasonable, and something that we can accomplish before this application comes back up in front of you.
Would April 24th, that's a month, would that be sufficient time, or would you like it sooner, April 10th, which is only 2 weeks? I don't know how you can get it done in 2 weeks, but maybe you can create the same magic of building a building with no
My
permits?
recommendation, Mr. Kisselback, would say, I mean, this has existed for some time, and knowing what the council's agendas look like coming up, I'd say April 24 is probably
That's exactly what I'm thinking, that's what I'm
the
saying.
agenda that you want to shoot for.
That's what I'm thinking, too.
That's
Makes
more than
sense.
reasonable, and the applicant will appreciates council's consideration, and we look forward to returning on April 24th with a more detailed plan for review and a more detailed timeline for taking into account council's consideration.
Mr. McGuigan, I only have one other point, not to beat a dead horse, but the other point is that, if you had that addition done like that, whether it was a contractor's mistake, we'll have to give you the benefit of the doubt there. It was a contractor's mistake. You kind of insinuated that the zoning hearing board didn't cooperate in resolving this with you, where they turned you down because you should have been turned down, because that's what happens when you build something like that without permits.
And I did not mean to insinuate something like that.
They're a separate
Listen,
board, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
they're not an
look,
advisory board, they have their own powers.
Every board in this township, the responsibility is to review every application on the merits. And the zoning hearing board,
Because we
they
let
did
people
just
get
that.
away with, we let people just approve it afterwards, and everybody would just do it. Everybody would just build whatever they want and deal with it later.
I do a somewhat decent amount of code
All right, I'm going to
enforcement
ask for a
work. I agree
motion to
with
be put on the floor, that we
I will
table
put the
this.
motion on the floor to table this until a date certain thereof, April 24th.
And I need a second on the motion.
So moved.
Not that
Second.
there's a discussion on this
Second.
motion, but Mr. Paz, I want to make sure we have an extension of time that's provided to us.
I believe that there is already an open waiver of time of the MPC. You'll confirm that, Mr. McGuigan?
Yes, on the record here, obviously, the applicant does waive any timelines within the MPC that would require this board to hold a hearing on the instant application. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Any against, any abstentions? That is unanimous to table until April 24th. Thank you very much for your presentation and your patience with our questions.
Thank you very much.
All right. You lying bastard. Okay. Now, that was interesting. Agenda item number 8. This is consideration of signing, this should be an easement of agreement for Costa Homes, 4946 Neshaminy Boulevard. 4 lots and 3 signals. I'm familiar with that project. I think we all are. And that's 02-019-197. I'll give it to Mr. Pizzo.
Yes, Mr. Kisselback, I think you've adequately described everything that's happening as far as the property involved. Before you are the Land Development Improvements Agreement and the Stormwater Best Management Practices Operation and Maintenance Agreement for the property at 4946 Neshaminy Boulevard. The agreements have been prepared by my office. They have been signed by the developer and returned together with all of the required fees and escrows, and they are in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to be put on the floor for this consideration.
I'll make a motion that we agree to land development improvement and stormwater best management practices as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. That's for A and B.
Second?
Second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any negatives? No? Unanimous? Number 9 is public comment. Would anyone like to make any comments? Not too many publics around. Still hanging in there with us, right? All right. I will exempt you from your test then. You're fine.
There's 8 copies there.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, we're going to go to our personnel. Phil, would you like to say anything tonight?
No, sir.
And rightfully so. Thank you. Debbie, you're fine?
No, let's go to the mayor.
I'll go Mr. Pizzo first. How's that?
I really wanted the mayor to go
To what?
next.
When it's his turn.
No, she wants him to go for a reason.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you can go because I'm being prodded that you should go.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things, and we had talked about it earlier, her incredible murders down there at Nashville. It's hard to even talk about, but please, everybody, keep it in your prayers. And you know what? You would never think it could happen there. That's right. So it can happen anywhere, so we have to be diligent in what we do. So those poor folks down there, and certainly the tornado, my goodness gracious, I don't know how many things are going to happen at once, but that was terrible. And we keep them in our prayers. 26 people lost their lives down there. I mean, it's just, things are piling up. The good thing, drink your water. You can drink your water, no big problems there.
And beer.
There was a lot going on over the weekend, and I was on top of it early on Saturday morning, so Sunday morning it was, it really hit the fan, and I understand you can't even get water. Everybody went out and bought the water. And on a lighter note, there's 4 Joes sitting up here, okay? Today is National Joe Day. Did you know that? You didn't even know that, right?
That was
National Joe Day. So to my colleagues, Joe, and Joe,
Joshua's.
have a great rest of the evening and go celebrate. It's kind of like, St. Patrick's Day for us. Anyway,
Cup of Joe.
thank you for your patience.
Okay, Mr. Pizzo, would you like to say anything?
Just to add on to what the mayor was saying about the drinking water, our drinking water in Bensalem
Joe?
is provided by Aqua. Bensalem water does not come from the city of Philadelphia. It does not come from the Baxter Water Treatment Plant. So while we are watching to see what's happening in the city and hoping that they continue to be free of problems with the water in the city, should the city start to experience problems, please keep in mind again that Bensalem's water does not come from the city of Philadelphia. It is not a water source for Bensalem. So, and if you have questions or concerns, you should go online to Aqua or call the phone number that's on your water bill from Aqua and ask them what the status is for your particular neighborhood.
Can I just add something to that? That they are able to divert water under any Aqua to Bensalem if there was a condition from either Chester or right here in Middletown. So they have lots of ways to get water.
Okay, we'll go into our council members then. Start with Ms. Benitez, if you'd be kind enough to go first, if you would.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you, Mayor, for the
Michelle.
update. Again, our prayers go out to all those affected by the tornadoes and the tragic loss in Nashville today. Mental health is a very important thing, and there are a lot of resources out there for you. We actually have a community organization or group building a better Bensalem together. We have lots of resources available for you there. If you or anybody you know needs any information, please visit our website or our Facebook page. I'd like to congratulate Officer Ames again for his accomplishment this evening, and once again, thank him for his excellent service. Aqua's been a great communicator. I've gotten text messages, emails. I know people are getting phone calls. Stay on top of it, but the township is obviously on top of it, and Aqua has information. We have information. Thank you for telling everybody the water's safe. It's a big deal. We know that. And other than that, we won't see you until after Easter, so happy Easter. Enjoy your Easter with your families. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go Councilman Polari.
Everything's been said, Mr.
Everything's been said. Okay, Mr. Joe Knowles.
Thank you, Ms. Benitez, so I didn't forget to wish everybody a happy Easter holiday. Everybody's families hopefully will be together. Again, it's important to remember, I think it was 3 9-year-olds got killed, so, it's very, and 3 adults. But we have to keep them people in our prayers and hope that stuff like this stops occurring in our country. But have a nice Easter, and, congratulations to police officers in Bensalem Township for the job they do for us, and the officer Steve Ames for his achievements. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Stacy Champion, please.
So my thoughts, prayers, and go out to all the families affected by the tornadoes, the things happening in Nashville, and the things happening every day all around the country. It's just Nashville, is in our hearts right now, but every day so many communities are dealing with so much violence in many different ways, so we need to find a way for that in many different ways between mental health and our laws being adhered to. But to all, not happy Easter to everybody who's celebrating Easter. We also have Passover, and we also have Ramadan. So it's a very religious month for many members of our community to think of all of them and to try and think of peace for our world, and not just here in the U.S., across the world. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to add that we should keep everyone in our prayers as to what's happening. And maybe we should look at going back to prayer as far as being a solution to some of our problems. I understand that 15% of the Catholic Church attend Mass and go to church, 15% in the United States of America. It's 4% in France and less than that in Germany. So maybe that's the problem that we're having in terms of these tragedies that are happening to us this time. So please keep the families of everyone that you know and everyone that you hear, keep them in your prayers, and hopefully we'll get through this, and hopefully there'll be brighter days coming along, especially celebrating Easter, which is the most important holiday to the Christian religion, and remember that's important to all of us in terms of what's happening here, and it's just an offshoot of that, many other religions, even well, I'm not going to mention other religions, but that's an important part of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And we'll see you. Have a great Easter. Palm Sunday is next week. My great-granddaughter is being christened on that day. So that's pretty amazing to me.
Congratulations.
And, and I want to say God bless everyone, and that's the end of our meeting. Concluded. Thank you.